All right, guys, let's get to our 5 stats you need to know for this game on Sunday. But first, if you're an NFL fan, you can cash in big with a big return early on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get in a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com/UCSS. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. We're going to fly through some of these guys. I got a good stat, some bad stats, and we're going to end with a positive, a reason to feel positive about the upcoming Browns versus Raiders game. The first stat I have for you guys is that first touchdown pass Deshaun threw to Amari Cooper was one of the more improbable passes completed in recent memory. According to Next Gen Stats, that 24-yard touchdown pass against the Giants traveled 39.9 yards in the air with a sideline distance of 0.9 yards, less than 1 yard of sideline separation. According to Next Gen Stats, the completion probability of that pass was 14.5%. That was the third most improbable completion of the entire season, and Watson's most improbable completion since Week 16 of the 2018 season. So there were signs that it still may be in there. He can dial it up when he needs to. That was a perfectly completed, thrown, executed play by
Who
Amari
gets more
Cooper,
credit for that,
Deshaun
though?
Watson.
Those stats, Deshaun or Amari?
Both.
I thought it was a great throw, and it was a great catch.
It was a really good throw, but Mike, you just presented it as that's a Deshaun Watson stat.
Well, I think it's both.
Yeah.
Because it took a great throw, and it took a great catch.
Nobody's better than Amari Cooper at keeping the feet in bounds on a play,
It's amazing.
like that.
He is so good at that.
Deshaun Watson he had about three throws in that game. We were like, dang,
That was a really good throw.
Yeah.
That's a crazy throw.
I think what was intoxicating was it was the first throw of the game.
Yeah.
And we were like, okay.
Yeah.
We saw a couple good throws after that, but nothing approaching that level.
I thought I thought the catch on the sideline of Amari Cooper, like that was a crazy throw too.
Amari had 3 great catches
He had 3
on the
crazy
sideline.
catches on the sideline.
You talk about we hope Deshaun hears the right piece of criticism.
Yeah.
It looks like Amari Cooper did. I mean, Amari Cooper was getting bashed, and rightfully so. And man, he came out and he said, I'm still Amari Cooper.
Yeah.
I'm still that guy.
That's right.
Throw the ball to me. Even if I'm covered, I'm going to high point it. I'm going to make a great catch and ballerina toe tap. I'm going to get the job done. That's what we need to see from Deshaun Watson, because you're right. It likely, yes, you're going to get Njoku back. Yes, you're going to get Chubb back. Those are huge elements to this offense that hopefully will alleviate some of the pressure from number 4. But the offensive line, yes, they could get more healthy, but you still got pieces up there that don't belong in the NFL on a starting offensive line.
Well, the offensive line is the next stat I want to focus on here. We started with the good. We're going to pivot to the bad here. This is before last night's game. So if anything changed due to Thursday night football, I apologize. This is before last night's game. But the Browns have allowed 16 sacks this season. That's the most in the NFL. They're giving up a 12.1 sack rate on Watson's dropbacks. They've allowed 63 pressures. That's also the most in the NFL with a 44.7 pressure rate. That's second in the NFL behind New England. Pochich, Bitonio, and James Hudson all rank in the top 10 in pressures allowed. Pochich, number 1. To G. Bush's point, he's fallen off. He's allowed 14 pressures through 3 games. Bitonio, Hudson tied for 6 with 11 pressures allowed. Watson's been blitzed on 33% of his dropbacks this year. That's right around league average. But last week against the Giants, New York blitzed 57% of his dropbacks. That's completely off tendency for their defensive coordinator.
It is, but that's what they're going to see from now on.
And, well, it's a copycat league. Vegas has the 5th highest blitz percentage in football through the first 3 games of the season, so I'd expect a ton more. And I found this little nugget. We mentioned Dan Pizzuta in his quarterback rankings earlier. He tweeted this out yesterday. The 2 defenses in last night's game, Dallas and New York, combined for 31 quarterback hits in their games against the Browns. In last night's game against each other, they combined for 4, which just puts into context how much the offensive line has significantly struggled against pressure defenses.
It also puts into context, when you blitz, the quarterback's got to be quick and make a quick decision, because when the other team's blitzing, you got one-on-one coverage.
Somewhere.
Right?
Mm-hmm. Somewhere.
No,
Find
everywhere.
It. Yes.
If you're blitzing, then everybody's one-on-one.
Not always. Not necessarily.
Well, I guess it depends how many guys are out.
You can blitz and run zone behind.
If you're running a 2 or 3 receiver set, then
that's true. But it's more wide open in the pass game. But you got to be quick.
Yes, and that's the point where I said What we do know about Deshaun Watson is he does not have that quick process.
At least he doesn't now.
And he's going to have to understand, and I don't know if that means in practice you rush 8 guys on every play. Every play he's seeing 8 guys. And what that does is it speeds up his mental clock. I might not have to the back of my drop before I can look for a receiver. So start looking immediately, and if that means it's 3 or 4 or 5 yards down the field, it's better than a sack.
Go ahead, G.
The problem is should be so obvious that Kevin Stefanski, as the offensive coordinator, would understand these stats too, and he would do more than hand the ball to D'Onta Foreman twice in the first half. When you saw what the recipe was against the Jaguars, if you have all those numbers and you know you guys are switching around, there's no way you can be in some of these sets and formations, especially given the fact that you have your starting tight end out who stays in and chips and blocks and releases. The Browns, the come to Jesus moment I just gave to Deshaun Watson, there needs to also be a come to Jesus moment for Kevin Stefanski.
Wow.
If you can't do a better job of scheming open people and making sure that you have a competent game plan, maybe you do need to get that playbook up. I'm going to just be honest with you.
They need to adjust this week, no doubt. I mean, those numbers through 2 weeks weren't nearly as bad as last week was the worst performance by the offensive line. It got even worse last week. So, yes, there needs to be adjustment. Having D'Onta Foreman not in the game plan when he ran effectively between the tackles in game 2 was a mistake. There's no doubt about it. I would love to know the reason why they didn't use him. Again, he's not a great back, but he's better than Jerome Ford between the tackles. That's what he does better. He hits the hole quicker than Jerome Ford does. He doesn't do that dancing around. And he'll at least get a couple of positive yards, so you're looking at 2nd and 6, 2nd and 7 instead of 2nd and 10.
Yeah, stay on schedule and run past the blitzers. If these teams are going to be blitzing, the Giants blitz 57% of the plays.
57% of his dropbacks.
That's inordinate.
Right.
I mean, that is crazy. So you can bet the Raiders are going to do that. So what you do then is you scheme running plays. So your guys are running right past the blitzers on the edges.
And I like, screen passes should work with that.
They should.
What happened to your screen game?
I mean, that should be
your screen game with Chubb and Hunt was second to none. What happened to that?
If your ends are firing, to the quarterback, immediately, and you got guys did a screen pass where I'm getting my tackle outside or getting my guard to pull.
What happened?
Should work.
What happened to you can take a play out of the Browns playbook. Like the Browns get gashed on this stuff all the time.
Yeah.
The motion plays. You know what kills people when you're trying to blitz? When guys are running back and forth,
which they did
on the line of scrimmage and handing the ball to jet motions and screen and tunnels and bubble screen. It makes your defensive ends have to retrace their steps and cover downfield and just can't tee off on your quarterback.
And Jerome Ford is at his best when he's getting outside, so that's where you could use him most effectively.
I thought it would be
Kevin Stefanski deserved a lot of criticism for last week.
He did.
And he better adjust. I mean, they got to. And that's how you stop the blitz, is by beating it.
Yes. Yeah.
Whether it's by a screen pass, whether it's a run when they're not expecting it, or just a quick slant, pattern, whatever. Yeah. If you start beating it, they're not going to blitz as much.
There's nothing more frustrating for blitzing defensive ends and even safeties or wherever if you're not getting home.
That's right.
And if it's just an eighth of a second, you're too late, you're too late. At some point, the defensive coordinator has to adjust and say, we're not getting there. We're gonna send 4 or 5 or whatever. Mike, that was a great stat.
Thank you.
I think that really encapsulates how incompetent this offensive line has been.
They've struggled.
Worst in the league.
It's been the worst, yeah. Speaking of other bad stats, we have 2 more bad stats before we'll wrap up with a good one. It's a good bad sandwich. You mentioned Deshaun Watson earlier. It's some ugly company that he's currently in. Right now, through 3 weeks, he leads the NFL in total dropbacks, excluding Bryce Young, who's been benched. Deshaun is dead last in total QBR, success rate, and explosive play rate. His 24.5% off-target rate's the 3rd worst in the NFL and the worst of his career. The Browns' offense success rate as a team is the lowest it's been in any season for the franchise since moving back to Cleveland in 1999. And his EPA per dropback is the worst of any Cleveland starter through 3 weeks since they moved back to Cleveland in 99.
Wait, what?
Through 3 weeks, his EPA per dropback is worse than Brady Quinn, Tyrod Taylor, Brandon Weedy, Deshaun Kaiser, every quarterback that started the season for the Browns.
Okay,
through 3 weeks, he's been terrifying. As bad as it's come, according to EPA per dropback. It's just one stat.
Well, the EPA, I love EPA.
Yeah. It's a pretty good stat.
I love it.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
that's
what
not
can you
good.
say? I mean, everything on there is terrible.
Well, here's what that says. He's not just bad by metrics this year, because we said he's 31, 29, 30.
Yeah.
It's not just bad by this year's metrics. He's bad when measured against a historically bad group.
Yes.
And that is terrifying.
He's not getting any help, and his receivers are the focus of our next stat. Also not great. Jason Lloyd brought these to my attention. All these stats come from True Media. The Browns have a 5.2% drop rate this year. It's the third highest in football. They lead the NFL in total drops. They average a max speed of 13.6 miles per hour on routes. That's the third slowest in football. On deep routes, it barely gets any faster, 14.7 miles per hour on deep routes, even if they're not targeted.
When some of the league is running 20 and 21 miles an hour.
They are averaging less than 15. That's the slowest in football. They average 2.8 yards of separation on routes. That's 26th in football. Once again, these are before last night, so maybe they're one off, but this was before last night. Yeah, the receivers, not giving Deshaun any help.
So let me clarify, Mike. Correct me if I'm wrong. Our offensive line can't block, right?
Correct.
Our receivers can't get open.
Our receivers can't get open,
And when they
can't
do-
run fast, and can't catch.
And when they do get open and they drop the rock at the highest rates,
Or the quarterback
and
is
our
missing it.
quarterback is the most inefficient quarterback in the league. Do I have all of that right?
All of that is correct.
Okay, well then that's why you have the worst offense in football.
You're right.
When
There's
your
no
quarterback's
hiding from it.
inefficient, your offensive line can't block, your wide receivers can't get open or
Yeah,
catch.
other than that,
that's-
Mrs. Lincoln, did you enjoy the
yeah,
play?
That's
Here's
bad.
the good news, though. We're going to end on a
Please
positive
give me
note.
something. I'm ready to jump off a tall building.
Listen, the Raiders' defense last week gave up 319 yards and 3 touchdowns to Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton, the only quarterback in the NFL this year to throw for 303 touchdowns in a game against this Raiders secondary. The
amazing?
Raiders also have the worst rushing attack in football through 3 games. The Raiders running backs are
I know,
averaging
they're bad.
43 yards per game from the running
They're
back. That's
bad.
it. 43. It's a one-dimensional offense. It's a secondary that can be taken advantage of. By the way, Andy Dalton in this game with those 3 touchdowns passed Tony Romo for 25th all-time on the NFL's touchdown passing list, which I never would have guessed. Andy Dalton, top 25
Well, he's
all-time.
56
Andy
NFL.
years
Dalton was a
old.
good quarterback.
He's a very
It's
good
still
quarterback.
25
Good,
of all
solid
time. It's still a high
quarterback.
number. So
He was the line.
Big picture, Bull.
Go ahead.
If there's a defense to take advantage of, this is a very
Now,
vulnerable defense.
you have that right now. You have that as the good news, but here's the bad news. If Andy Dalton did this against the Raiders defense, and our guy continues to roll out sub 200-yard passing days,
Yeah.
so in other words, if he's going to have a good day, this is the defense to do it against.
That's right.
If he looks in game 4 like he's looked in games 1, 2, and 3,
Not good.
I don't know at what point they say, well, we better find out if DTR has anything.
I don't.
Bull,
yeah.
you got it. You've got it. Are you gonna draft a quarterback next year?
If Deshaun Watson stinks all season, yes.
Okay, so at some point, I need to know, is the guy we drafted at quarterback 2 years ago a potential answer?
I'm here to tell you, if
Yeah.
DTR is playing in a game or because Deshaun Watson got benched, get ready for the rebuild.
Oh, it's
Yeah,
on.
oh, yeah.
No.
That's a fire. Like I don't people like are like yeah. Well, if we get Deshaun up out of here, bro, you're back. We are back to talking about progress.
Square one.
So be careful what you wish for, because Myles Garrett is one of the first things smoking. DTR, I mean, the line is already in shambles.
But G, do you agree with that premise that once you've made the decision, and I know you're not there, I'm as close to being there as I've ever been, and seeing these numbers gets me even closer. If at, let's say, week 8, we're still seeing middling Deshaun Watson, and we're still seeing numbers like this, don't at some point, as an organization, you have to do your due diligence, because you have to at some point start thinking about next year.
Well, no.
And if you're 2-6,
If maybe
Well, it don't-
they may
3-5.
already think he's not a starter.
it
so
don't.
DTR,
yes.
It don't
they
work.
may,
Yeah.
but I would like to definitively know that. I would
It don't
like to
work
say,
that way.
okay, the quarterback of our future is currently not on the roster.
They don't work that way, because then no GM wants to signal a teardown in the middle of a season.
No, but it's happened.
I mean, but
Sometimes, no GM wants to admit that you've got the worst offensive line, the worst wide receiver room, and the worst quarterback.
It should
but
be up to
reality
Kevin.
is reality.
At some point, if Kevin thinks the Browns have a better chance to win without Deshaun Watson, then he's got to pull the trigger. He's the coach.
agree
I'm not
with
saying
that.
he would feel that way, but if
Now,
he does.
do you think he'd get pushback from DePodesta?
But
and
what
Haslam?
could they do? What are they going to fire him? They'll have to pay him whatever. I mean,
I don't think Kevin's not the kind of guy that's going to be insubordinate.
he should be.
I agree with that too.
He's the
but
coach.
not. I know.
Yeah.
It's going to take a catastrophe for them to switch. It just like that's.
Are we close to a catastrophe in your mind?
No.
We're not.
I mean, you haven't been eliminated from the playoffs. You haven't even played a division game.
No, I get that.
I
It
don't
is
think there's any
very
chance
early.
that's happening
He
anytime
may go out
soon,
there
but-
Sunday. He may go out Sunday and do what Andy Dalton did. But the bar is that's to me that's where the bar is. Andy Dalton is a 36-year-old backup.
And by the way, there's no excuse if Andy Dalton. You can't say, well, Andy Dalton's been, Deshaun Watson's rusty. Well, Andy Dalton hasn't played in forever.
That guy's in
well,
mothballs.
the Panthers have better talent. No, they have no talent.
None.
They have no talent.
It's week to week.
It is week to week.
Any week.
But if Deshaun Watson's good, it's got to happen this week.
I need to see it.
We said the Giants was garbage. Not really. They can come out and smoke you just like that.
I said the Giants are going to win 5 games. I still think the Giants.
I think the Giants are better than we thought they were, and even last night. I mean, I don't think Dallas is very good either, but I do think that this is a team that could hover around 500 this year. They're not